So let's see, suitable feedstock materials. The ruminants, we talked about the cows, buffalo, sheep, things that eat, that have the stomach design that they chew their cud, basically. If you look at your handout sheet, I don't know what page it is, but it has an order, a list of the 1 to 8, the greatest to lowest: poultry, swine, cattle, horse, rabbit, goat, buffalo, sheep, and llama fits in there somewhere around the horse area, I believe. I didn't put that in there, but that's what it is. So basically, any of those waste products are suitable for our livestock portion of it. Cat and dog waste, that's okay. There's questions, depending on what you put into it, there's questions on applying that fertilizer directly to edible plants later, and that's not something we would do. I mean, they actually have without composting it further, they actually, in the system here, technology here, right in there's a little chlorine tablet. I mean, you don't have to put it in there, but there's a little chlorine tablet that they, I guess for liability reasons or just for, good reason, the effluent passes through that, and the chlorine pretty much takes care of a lot of the pathogens, and it evaporates. Within 24 hours, it'll be gone. How that affects certain aspects of the nutrition in there, I do not know, but I know removing it under the proper conditions, removing it wouldn't be an issue. But then you'd have to compost and get up to suitable temperatures for a suitable amount of time to make sure that any pathogens in the effluent or the solids were dealt with. So, but I just want to let you, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that I think it's a great thing to do, to think about using this to remediate pet waste. But because pets have such close relationships to us, they got a lot of the diseases that we can get. So you want to treat them even more carefully than the other stuff.
Yeah.
You might consider the chlorine, you might consider thermophilic composting afterwards, or something else if you want to use that remaining sludge for fertilizer.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's why they mention, the company that makes that one mentions it, but they have to delineate between who they're talking to. In other words, in certain societies, certain parts of the world, I mean, that's not as much of an issue legally or otherwise. And here, we have to think about that. I mean, it's a very good point. Our system's 310 gallons of liquid. I'm going to say 300 just to make it easy. And so that system can take about 2 gallons of food waste, kitchen waste and whatever, and about 4 to 5 gallons of manure slurry a day. It's not a huge system. It only takes that much. But you put in 5 gallons comes out the other end. So, that's about our feed levels. It doesn't have to be fed every day. After several days of not feeding, it's going to start to lessen its production of gas. So, as I said, this is not a walk away. This is not a feed it and walk away for a month or even a week kind of a operation. You do have to sort of keep up with it. I have been taking temperature readings every day, both for the ambient and the digestion tank itself with the thermometer, digital thermometer, and I've been taking pH readings every day from various places within the system and the effluent to see where that's at. The neat thing is, in the beginning, I take 3 different samples, say of the pH, one here, one effluent, one through the opening here, and one through the front of it where you feed the sink, they call it, where you feed the food in, and they're all different. That's the very first day or so. First all different. Why that is, I don't know. Just the way the manure floated, didn't mix enough, whatever. After it first started to burp it will. Yeah, it'll start burping. It'll start making noise and gurgling, and the bacteria is working. Then at that point, take my pH readings, and everything just is consistent through the thing. So it's working good. That means it's a community. That means we don't have fringes. We don't have different opinions in the digester. It's all everybody's cool. So or everybody's hot, whatever. So that's a good sign. A pH is a good measure of quality. We're looking at about. You really don't want it below 6.8 or 6.5 at the lowest. I've been down to 6.5 in the beginning on that. So we're looking at between 6.8 and 7.5. Ideally, it will be between 7.0 and 7.5. And as anybody who knows about pH values can tell you, it's not a linear thing. A little one degree of change is like quite a bit of a change. It could be 10 times more. I mean, it's not a linear thing. So we get a little 7 to 7.2 is, that's noticeable. So I've been running, we were 6.5 a little bit, and then 6.8, 6 in there, and then finally got up to 7, and have been running 7, and then when it started to really start cooking and making the gas, it's been at 7.2, I believe, for the past week or more. A good level. So that's about right. It probably won't get up to 7.5, just to get it up, which isn't necessarily important. I mean, just it's where it wants to be, and it will self-regulate. When you and it are simpatico and everything's going well, it will settle in on a pH level, and it will want to stay there. It will want to equalize. You're the one that's going to mess it up, either by reducing the temperature, feeding it too much of the wrong thing, or feeding it too much, or not feeding it. I mean, that's what's going to change things. So you do good by it, it'll do good by you. The adjustment. You can if things do get sour, as I had down to 6.5, souring or going acetic, is lower pH. You can mitigate that with something as simple as the baking soda, a pound of baking soda. Or a little stronger is our washing soda, super washing soda. It's the Arm & Hammer or whatever brand. This is a little stronger. And then there's some other things you can put in there, like we're looking into putting wood ash and biochar. And eggshells can be part of the food feed. Other shells not, because they don't digest. The eggshells are thin enough that they can sort of digest, but mussels and other stuff, no. But yes, the eggshells could help. But I'm thinking of things like brand names. I don't know if you'd know the name of it. It's like there's 5 or 6 brand name alkalines that you can add to soil that are organic, that people put. But you don't even need to worry about that. If you're an organic gardener, you might know them. If not, this stuff is great. What I did was 1 pound. I think I put a half a pound in one day, and I measured the pH about a day or so later, and then I put another half pound in, and I think I may have put in, I wrote it down, I may have put in another quarter pound, but it bumped everything, pretty quickly bumped it back up to 7 where I wanted it, and then it took it from there by itself from 7 to 7.2. So that's that. Carbon-nitrogen ratio, best ratios, balance between the carbon materials and the nitrogen materials is going to be, for this system, as opposed to a compost pile, for this system, for not just ours, but methane digestion, is going to be 25 to 1, 25 to 1 carbon nitrogen to 30 to 1 carbon nitrogen. So a compost pile is probably 25 to 35. Is that?
Yeah, so they're pretty similar.
They're similar, but they're not. I don't want 35 is not going to kill this, but it's a little higher than what we'd normally go. But yes, you're basically composting. That's it. Yeah.
So I always manage a compost pile based on if it's hot, I put more carbon in. If it's not hot enough, I put more nitrogen in.
Right. Yeah.
Can you get temperatures and kind of gauge it like that?
Yeah, but it's hard to say what is. You'd have to go to like Cornell and some of the land-grant universities where they actually do good agricultural studies, like Penn State or whatever, Purdue or whatever, where they actually will have a carbon-nitrogen balance delineated for every single thing that ever grew in the soil. I have not been able to find. I just wanted to find what the fruit of a tomato was. Lord knows it's out there. I just couldn't find it. The stalks are about 5 to 1. CN 5 to 1, but the fruit itself, I don't know.
They generally just say vegetable waste.
Yeah, that's what you'll see. Yeah.
They don't show you specific.
Yeah, right. But some of them actually do break it out. If you want to go to that length and do it that way, yes, that will likely work. Yeah. The amount of time that the digester is reacting, and the pressure in the system, and the feedstock loading, how much you put in, how much liquid you mix in with it, like a watery slurry as opposed to a thicker slurry, all will affect the digestion profile. So, and I really can't tell you because, I don't really know. There's so many variables in what manure mixed with what fruit or what vegetable with how much water. I mean, it's all different, but these are things to be aware of. It will change the profile, maybe not drastically, but it will change the profile. I can say that in the more commercial digesters, they run their slurries, like we're using like a 10% slurry, 10% material to 90% water overall. Maybe 25 gallons of slurry to the 300 gallons of, or not to 300, but the 25 is part of the 300 gallons. The larger systems or the more engineered systems will run up to 40%. So, we're doing about 8 to 12, something like that, and they may do up to 40. Too much water, it's going to affect you. You don't have enough, especially in a larger operation, if you put too much water and you don't have enough place to put your manure. In other words, you're thinning it out so much that you'll have manure piling up out there, and you're like, no, I got to make it thicker. Too thick, especially in something manual like we have, we're going to have trouble with the handling of the materials when we go to drain it. You're going to have like a heavy, mucky stuff, and it's going to be hard to get it out. So we're not running at 40% solids. It's just not something we would do in that system. So yeah.
Would you ever choose your organisms, like inoculate with EM or like yeast or something?
I never. The honest answer to that is I don't know. The addition to that is I'd like to try it. I mean, EM sounds wonderful. The yeast, I'm not really sure about the yeast, but I mean, things you actually are making alcohol. Essentially, that second step is an ethanol. A lot of things happen through ethanol. Even our muscles work on ethanol. So I don't see why yeast wouldn't be something to look at. Yeah, but I don't know.
The manure itself is a good inoculant.
Yeah.
Contains the bacteria that we need.
Yeah.
So we talked about the swine and all that sheep in that list there, and the other food waste. I mean, just went off down the list here: garden culls, dairy products. Dairy's okay. Meats and meats and fats in moderation. Seeds and eggshells, not hard shells. And any kind of rotten food or whatever is not, it's not a real issue. All the animal manures that I had listed there are, perfectly okay. They're necessary to start as a starter, and you can continue to feed manures after that, or you can use the manure starter and then just feed the vegetable and garden matter after that. Ideally, and this has really been something that's occurred over the past decade or more, is that they are discovering more and more so that mixing the manures with the vegetable and food matter is the ideal situation, because each element brings its characteristics and improves the profile.
And is coffee grounds a pH concern?
The pH?
Yeah, is coffee grounds as an additive?
Oh, the coffee grounds are 20 to 25, which sounds great, but coffee grounds also clog up too many coffee grounds clog up the system. It's going to be a sludgy thing. So, but you can put coffee grounds in because they're at a good CN balance. They're 20 to 1's great.
Their structure is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just the. I mean, Yeah.
So you can use some, but not too much?
Yeah, because, I'm thinking of my compost pile, and I use a drip, like a Melita type, paper or my handkerchief or something, let it go through there, and then you dump, a little bit, and every day in the compost. And I'm looking at it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking, that's a lot of coffee. It's just building up and building up. I don't drink even all that much. It's just, I don't know how many scoops a day, but it's a lot when you add it up. So, yes, I mean, you can do it, but just in moderation. And somewhere in this listing here, I have sort of the guidelines for that. The citrus fruit will, I want to say animal manures are already most animal manures are already at almost perfect or very close to perfect CN balance. So that's what makes that good. Poultry is the exception. The poultry makes great digester, but it's in a managed system where you can deal with the ammonia. And our system is not really set up to deal very well with ammonia. So we sort of try to avoid putting more than maybe 25% chicken manure in with that. Yeah.
Would this be, you talking about straight chicken manure, or are you talking about chicken litter?
No, the point is to avoid anything to do with litter, like any of the clays, any of the paper, any of the stuff that you might... Yeah, no, we don't want any of that stuff because it doesn't break down, but it just clog things up. It's not that it will get in there. It's not that it can't ever get in there, but we don't want to make a practice of putting it in there because it's just going to create a problem. Not only in cleaning it out, but in reacting and breaking down within the system. It's going to slow things down.
If you hammer built it first, would that make a difference?
It would make a difference, but it wouldn't be that incredibly helpful. What I've done with the horse manure is we keep about 7 horses out here. I go out and with a shovel and I get the freshest one I could with the littlest amount of, they get an organic feed, I believe, right? Probably? Or pretty, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know, probably non-GMO.
Yeah, non-GMO, okay, non-GMO. That's a good start. But anyway, they are, I don't know if it's just they're trained or just the way they are, but they tend to go in one little spot, and the folks who keep them there and myself now go out there and just I fish through it, and she's very conscious now and gives me the cleanest one, and try to keep it. I can select the least amount of straw, the least amount of anything in there, and that's what I've been using. We don't have to use that much manure because it's so little, and also we're putting in food waste, so I don't have to worry that much about it. I have enough to keep us going, and I'll show you in the bucket what it looks like. It still has stuff in it. It's just not your typically heavy straw, and it's certainly not what chicken litter looks like. Because I kept chickens for years, and 40 birds, and it's a big mess of paper in there. We don't want to do that. I mean, a little bit of newspaper, whatever, is not going to hurt. Yeah.
I've heard about a big farm before, and they'll feed corn to like pigs, and then they'll filter out the corn that comes out in the waste, feed that to chickens again, and then the liquid is what they're putting in their biodigestion.
Yeah.
Power.
That's a managed system, and that's the class is really small scale biogas. And although I'm wandering off into the other things, and we're talking about that, it's just that's great. Except it's not. You don't want to be the manager of that, unless you have machines to do it. So we got the list here. I just we're avoiding citrus fruit peels because they have a antibacterial element to them, and you don't want anything that kills bacteria because your bacteria is your friends in there. You want them to work. You don't want to keep them down. So not that you can't put a citrus peel in there, but not an excessive amount. We don't really want cardboard, sheets of paper, feathers, fur, coffee grounds. What else we got? Bleach, of course, not. Clippings like nail clippings, sawdust, chips, any of that stuff. I will say that the coffee grounds, as I said, are okay in moderation. Newspaper and such is okay in a little bit. Same thing, the shredded paper, maybe it's going to get in there. Definitely don't want sand or heavy shells or earth or soil, human hair, or any kind of hair really, because it doesn't digest. And digestible biobags, the company that makes this, mentioned that to me. People, especially in urban areas, they use like dog waste bags or buy a bag for putting waste in that eventually will compost, will disintegrate. They don't work, they will disintegrate in the thing, but that's not very easily, so we don't try to avoid putting them in there, the biodegradable bags in there. We want to limit chicken droppings, as I said before, because there's a high ammonia content. I wrote 50% at most, but I personally would probably keep it to 25. We want to limit fats, the oils, the meats, greases and stuff. Meat's okay, but not in excess. The heavier stuff like roots and stalks, the really heavy, stalky, substantial, meaty kind of fiber material, in moderation, because it's going to take a while to break that down. And not only that, but it's going to slow down the process, probably through a process of altering the CN ratio enough that it's going to make a problem. And then we have toilet and tissue papers. It's okay. I think basically that was something that was mentioned by the company that makes that, mainly because they're talking about if you had a biodigester toilet connected to this thing, there's going to be paper in there and stuff, so it's okay in that sense. But I wouldn't chuck tissues and papers in there. If a paper towel happened to get in with the bucket, you say, "Oh, there's a paper towel," it's not going to hurt anything. But it's not. It's just something to try to limit or avoid. The breakdown time and the profile is going to depend entirely on your mix of the CN ratio and the mix of profiles that you put in there, whether it's wet, green, sloppy stuff, manures, some of the harder stems and choppings from celery and lettuce spinach isn't a particularly good. It's too much water in it. Doesn't a particularly good element. You can put it in there, but it's not going to do you a whole lot of gas. Things like that. So that's a matter of a learning process, a learning curve, and you could actually play little games. See, well, this week I'll just try to put in just this kind of stuff and see how that goes. I have my manure as say the cow manure is my base level. It's my my test. My control, and then you can put in like a week of a bunch of one thing, and then you can put a week in a bunch of another thing, and see what happens that way. It's not going to hurt it. And the reason food waste works so well is because it hasn't been digested yet. It hasn't been through, manures have already been through the animal and it's been digested. Food waste, we haven't eaten it yet, so it hasn't been through us. So there's that much more to digest in the digester. So that makes it good. I mean, carrots, just the choppings, cuttings, garden waste, whatever. That's what we're looking at, and that's why it functions so well. So I just listed, I probably could have listed a lot more, but things that are good, that make a lot of gas: bread, corn, tomatoes, peas, that's the kind of stuff. It has, some sweetness in there, starches, whatever, and they're still easily digestible. They're not hard, they can be broken down. Things that don't work very well: fish, poultry, spinach, and there's some other, obviously, like I said, some of the harder carbon materials and some of this, stocky stuff, which doesn't break down that good. So,
in general, probably not a good idea.
Bones can go in there, but they're not really going to digest. I mean, it's going to contribute, but it's not going to break down into nothing. Well, they could. Yeah, I mean, just depending how you deal with cleaning it out. I know I'm going to have a lot of trouble because I made the house too small. I'm going to have to pull out a panel or stick a trash pump, some kind of mud puppy thing in there and suck it out, and then just flush it out somehow. But in a better design system, or in something open where she's like this, where she's, where everything's right there, it'll be easier, and you could still deal with it. Yeah. I am not going to spend a lot of time on on maintaining the CN balance because of our time. I thought, a pretty good job of explaining it and the process by which you can actually figure it out. It's by weight, and this is something you can get off the internet in a variety of locations, either in the digestion search or probably more in a compost, making good compost search. But it's all very clearly delineated. Basically, the CN ratio is a ratio of carbon to nitrogen. It's all been in the chart, which is towards the end of our little handout. It's all been leveled out to 1. So you might have something with I don't know, 21% carbon and 7% nitrogen. So we make the division, and that's going to come to 7 to 1. That's the number we're using. So basically it's a percentage. So what we're doing is weighing the material using the figures I gave in there as a percentage, and then figuring the percentage of the total that you're going to put in. So if you have 2 pounds of material going in, you're weighing the material, and you have, say, one manure is going to be 1 pound of it, and something else is going to be another ½ pound, which is the model I use, and something else is going to be another ½ pound, equals 2, and then you'll see what those materials are, and you add up the percentages on the carbon side, you add up the percentages on the nitrogen side, and then you divide the nitrogen into the carbon to get the ratio. And it's pretty, I mean, it's all here on the paper. You can, in my example, we have come out with, by using horse manure, kitchen waste, and fruit waste, come out with 26 and a half, or I think it's, 26 and a quarter parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen, which is well within our 25 to 30 range. So I just don't want to spend a lot of time because I want to be sure we get out there. Yeah.
So as a composter,
Yeah.
I mean, a long, long time ago, I actually sat down with paper and figured out carbon nitrogen, but I just learned over time, by doing it, what the right ratios were. I think you probably would think the same thing, to where it's pretty intuitive, and I would imagine that as you work this, you would get there too.
It's exactly what happens. I mean, you get an idea of what mixes well, what performs, and what doesn't perform.
So you're not sitting there with like a farm scale, being like,
You don't really have to do it every day. It's not. That's the other thing I didn't say. This is not something, and it's really basic what Pat just said. It's not something that you have to every day sit there with the scale and work it out. And you'll notice my example is in tenths of a stuff and fraction. That's because we're only talking about 2 pounds. I could have said 100 pounds and made it more understandable, but I wanted to be realistic about it. This is something that if you're going to try something new, or you want to first start off, you can do it this way, and then from there on, you really don't have to be weighing everything. It'll work out. I mean, just get the idea. The biogas storage. I'm going to have to just rip through some of this stuff because we're running low on light, and we're also I want to spend some time down there. It doesn't pressurize at all, really, in our world. I mean, maybe in industrial we can do it. I know we can do it in industrial world, but not among us. So it has to be stored in a larger container at a very, very low pressure. I mean, it's either atmospheric or just extremely low pressure. So the size of the container is your storage, not so much the pressure of the container. Like in the real, like air in a tire or carbon dioxide in a tank or something. It doesn't work like that. It's really the size of the tank. So as I said, we have 24 cubic feet of gas in our little model down there. You can convert burners of a stove and lighter. It just depends on the manufacturer and how they do it. But a lot of cook stoves have pressure regulators in there, just a little nozzle thing before it comes out. You can remove that and pass the biogas through, and it could work. If that doesn't work, and same with the lighting, the lamps. If that doesn't work, you can take a really small drill, fractional. You can buy very small drills, and basically the goal is to enlarge the existing orifice, the little hole where the gas comes through, to about between 30 and 40% in area larger than what it was to start with. And that's, again, a matter of experimentation. It's not the drill size. If you took the drill size and multiplied it and made it 40% bigger, it would be way, way too big. It's the area, and you can calculate that by the area of a circle is, pi r squared. So, 3.14 times radius squared times 3.14 is the area of the hole. So it's 30, 35, 40% maybe larger than the original hole. Really, still a very small hole. I think the burner, I think I said it before, the burner we use is a 5,000 BTU burner. Most little ones are about 6,000, on a stove like this. These are all the same size, but on your house stove, the little ones are 5,000, 6,000. Engines, not something we're going to talk about because 24 cubic feet would not run very long on there. But engines can, if they're going to be used to generate, they should be close to the digester because the heat from the engine and the water is going to be used to heat the digester itself, partially anyway. So that's important. So the energy in 200 cubic feet of gas, so that's 20. So we have a 24 cubic feet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 8 times more than what we can make is only 1 gallon of gasoline. But a gallon of gasoline, it's not. You can go 30 miles on a gallon of gasoline or whatever, 35 miles. You can run a generator for however long it runs on a gallon. So it's not like a
Tractor for a good long while.
yeah. So especially a small one, yeah. So it's not negligible. I mean, this is just. But I just want to make it clear that what we're talking about is lighting and stovetop cooking, really. Let me see. The pressure, as I said, we went through that. It's 4 inches of water column, roughly. Too much pressure, digestion slows down. Hydrogen sulfide is a byproduct or a co-product of the process. It is necessary it's produced and it's necessary in the digestion, but some of it comes out in the gas. It's fairly corrosive, so we pass it through iron filings There's other, everything's mentioned in here that you could use, but basically a can of iron filings or a chamber of iron filings, it goes through that, the iron strips it of the bad gas and it comes out fairly clean. Same with moisture, especially in the cold weather, moisture will tend to condense and get in the lines, so you'll want a water trap, and there's various ways of doing that, including the kind of traps they use on like air compressors and stuff, or just even a container that the water hits it and drops into it and builds up, and you have to, on the way, it drops into this little can, and it's sealed. I mean, it's part of the system. The water builds up in the can, and then what comes out of there is not any more water. It's fairly free of water. So, it's all just water trap. I mean, that's you can get something like that online, basically. Let me see. Too much, a higher water content, meaning lower solids in the mix, can actually be beneficial. Be beneficial for production, but it also increases the methane content. So it's not just increasing the health of the production, but it will increase the methane delivery. However, if it's too weak, too watery, that's not good. And if it's too thick, as I said, you'll have trouble with production, with cleaning it out and just stirring it and stuff.